Now, live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
That's right. This is the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon is on vacation today. My name is James DeJerome. I'm the executive producer of the Consumer Quarterback Show. I've been doing it for Brandon about 3 years now. Of course, Brandon's been on the air with the Consumer Quarterback Show for 8 years. He's been a consumer advocate for the Bay Area for quite some time, and that's what this show is all about. We are a consumer advocate program. We want to increase your consumption out there. You want to make your dollar go farther. We want you to be smarter when it comes to a lot of the things that we talk about in the show. And again, it started out on the home side because Brandon is the owner of the Platinum MVP team. He's a realtor here in the Bay Area, has been for quite a while. And of course, we had a bunch of great home service folks that came on the show. But in addition to that, now there's health and fitness, lots of legal advice. So the show has really expanded to provide a lot more knowledge for you, the consumer in the Bay Area, because that's what we're all about here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. We're if you're listening to us now on AM 860, we love that. Of course, you can hear us Sunday mornings on 102.5 FM as well. Check out YouTube. Go to YouTube and search the Consumer Quarterback Show. Lots of great videos, and all of our expert contributors have files and posts up there that you can check out and get to know them. In addition, of course, we have sponsors for the show, and one of the sponsors for our show is the Veteran Gutters. Brandon Porter owns Veteran Gutters. He's been with the show now for about a year. If you're looking to get gutters put on your house, get in touch with Brandon. He does such a great job. Of course, he's a veteran himself, and of course, his crew is all veteran. And of course, he's got discounts for anyone out there that did military service. And the idea is just we want to get all that water that's coming down now this time of year away from your foundation. It's not a good idea to just have water pouring off your roof into the ground right around your house. So get in touch with Brandon Porter at Veteran Gutters. Does a great job for us, longtime friend of the show. And of course, as I mentioned, Brandon is a realtor here in the Bay Area, has lots of property for you, even in this time of real estate scarcity throughout the Bay. Johnny is our TV producer. He's going to throw up a few properties for us. What do we got here? One in Brandon. So if you're looking for a location in Brandon, he's got one at 1211 North Parsons Ave. This is a former chiropractor's office, a prime location, great opportunity. Business and clients are already in place. The sale includes all the machines and equipment on site. He's got a break room and a kitchen area, waiting room, several treatment rooms. So if you're looking for a commercial opportunity office space, this would be a great one. 1211 North Parsons Ave in Brandon. Get in touch with Brandon about that, and get in touch with him about any commercial or residential opportunity. What else you got, Johnny? If you're looking to get into Pinellas, here's a residential opportunity in the Pinellas area. 117 14th Bel Air Beach. 4-bedroom, 3-bath, private pool, gourmet kitchen, air bathtub, temperature-controlled wine closet. Are you kidding me? I want that one. Hold that one, Johnny, for me. 117 14th Bel Air Beach in Pinellas. Man, that is sharp. If you're looking to get in touch with Brandon about any of the properties you hear pitched, give the Platinum MVP team a call. Again, he's got great opportunities for you. Don't leave money on the table. All right, we're going to start the show with Millie Athanason, a longtime attorney, a friend of ours on the show. But Brandon Faust is here in studio as well. Just tell us a little bit about what you're going to cover today, Brandon. Anything in particular?
Sure. Anything having to do with mold. Any questions that you guys have? I'm here for the consumer.
So you mean there's mold?
Advice. Yeah.
There's mold in Florida? I can't believe it.
You know, there's a lot of Brandons in Florida, too, if you think about it. Brandon Rhymes, Brandon Porter, a home in Brandon, and Brandon Faust, all in the same show.
Don't go anywhere if you're into Brandons. We got them all here on the show today, in addition to Millie Athanason. Millie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Now, Millie, I know you always have great legal advice for us, and one of the things you talked about last time was selecting an attorney. I know today you're going to cover divorce, and I just want you to, if you could, hit the highlights, because I sure, by the time you realize you want a divorce, you probably should have already taken steps towards that thing. And what about selecting an attorney before we get into the divorce stuff?
Well, I always say to be careful in selecting your attorney, to make sure that you have a personal interview with them and that you understand or have, make sure your expectations are known.
Right.
Asking that. So that this way you're going to have a more beneficial relationship, because you and your lawyer are going to have to work as a team in order to present your case to the court if it winds up going that far. Or to even enter into a settlement agreement, you want to have somebody that has your best interests at heart.
Right, because, again, you may go in there thinking we're going to get millions and millions, and the attorney may say, hold your horses for a second. It's not going to be quite that easy, so you readjust your expectations a little bit.
Yeah, yes, you do. I mean, that's something I always try to find out right at the initial interview is what is the person seeking? Mm-hmm. What do they hope the end result will be? And then we go from there. So, yes, I think that that's very, very important. But I wanted to talk about what happens when your spouse says, I think I want a divorce?
Yeah, it would be
What do you do?
quite shocking, pretty surprising. All of a sudden, you think you're in a great situation, and you get told, hey, I want a divorce. I can imagine that would take the air right out of your sails.
Absolutely. Sometimes people see it coming. Sometimes they don't see it coming, and it's a big shock. But you want to act, I think, as though you will move through with confidence. You don't want to be, yes, you're going to cry and be upset. We understand that, but you want to move through with confidence, and you want to make an environment that allows your spouse to come to you with questions or concerns. In other words, you want to keep those lines of communication open. What happens a lot of times is people become immediately embittered, angry, mistrustful. And so, the mudslinging starts right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And I think that does not help the situation, because you guys have a lot of decisions to make when you are planning for a divorce or going through a divorce. And if you can't sit and talk about it, the decisions are not going to be good decisions, because you'll be acting out of pure emotion instead of trying to remain somewhat calm and make rational decisions.
It makes a lot of sense. But I just was going to ask you, when you're talking about trying to maintain your cool or whatever, or do the right thing and not get too hot-headed about it, what about when you come at somebody and say they're responsible for this, or I hear a lot of this accusations of character assault. In other words, he's a bad person, that they're trying to cast aspersions at one another. Does the judge ever say, look, this is, before we ever get to this kind of thing, there's no need for this. We're going to try to decide this without, just because you tell me that person's bad and they tell me you're bad, there's no place for that in the court.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, you hear a lot of what we call mudslinging
Right.
in divorce court, because especially when it comes to like custody battles, character issues come to float, if you will, come to the surface. And so, what happens is, and I always tell people this, spending a day or 2 days in a courtroom mudslinging each other does not create an environment for you to move forward with regard to co-parenting.
Right.
After you just went to court and said, okay, he's a jerk, he's a cheater, he does this, he does that, and then you're going to turn around and say, oh, yes, we're going to be wonderful co-parents together.
Yeah, there's always the future. This is not the end, right? So you got to you got to have a strategy here.
Absolutely. And I always tell clients, when possible, to take the high road. You will have to bite your tongue many a time, but it is best to take the high road. Courts like to see reasonableness. Mm-hmm. They don't want to see somebody that's too far in one direction or too far in the other direction. And there are no judges that are going to think that everybody is 100% right 100% of the time. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, so you want to make sure that you present yourself in a reasonable fashion. We understand that nobody's perfect, but as long as you're trying to be your best self and act respectfully towards the other spouse and to the children, I think a judge is going to have a lot easier time making decisions that may work in your benefit. Okay.
I wish the court actually pulled the parents aside and said, hey, you're going about this in a terrible way. Like, just gave them advice on parent, because like you said, you're going to be a parent for the rest of your life. This is not going to end here.
Absolutely. And many times judges will at pretrial conferences or case management conferences. I've been to many of those where the judges will talk directly to the parties as opposed to the lawyers, because normally when you go to court, it's the lawyers doing most of the talking. But there are times when the judge will address the parties and tell them, hey, look, we can go forward with this, or you guys have the opportunity to make your own decisions. Chances are, if I make the decision for you, neither one of you is going to be happy with what I rule. I hear that a lot in courtrooms, and so I think it's certainly advice to take to heart, and to try to, understand that judges are very unlikely to give 100% of anything to one party and 0% of things to the other party. I always tell people, look at the scales of justice, and that's usually the balance that the court is going to be looking for.
Right, that's what
that doesn't mean that you may not get 100% of a certain asset. I don't mean it in that way, but I'm saying as a whole, if we took all the assets one person isn't going to get 100% and the other person gets absolutely nothing.
I see.
So, certainly being able to sit and talk about it and trying to resolve some of the issues, even if you can't resolve all of the issues, you can still settle some of the issues and resolve those, and then just go to court on the sticking point.
Right.
But I also want to tell you that if you're getting ready to meet with a lawyer to go seek a divorce, there's certain things you should have in your arsenal. I think a lot of times when people start, announce that they're getting divorced, everybody's pulling records, hiding the documents, all this stuff. So
yeah, they immediately start looking at your social media account for the last 5 years to see if you said anything.
Right. But some of the things that you want to have are your financial records together. Make a copy of your tax returns for the past 3 years. Make sure you've got your W-2s or 1099s or your pay stubs. You should know the account numbers and balances for all of your checking and savings accounts, whether they be joint accounts in one spouse's name or the other. You also would like, if possible, to have a copy of a statement showing you and your spouse's current balances for your 401ks, IRAs, or any other type of retirement accounts that you may have. Obviously, the more information that your attorney has, the better prepared that we are. And that's why I say we kind of work as a team with the client to set forth all of this. It's helpful to know the current value of any other investments that you guys have in joint names or in your own names alone. And you'd be surprised how many spouses, they'll say, the wife takes care of paying the bills or the husband takes care of all that. And a lot of people just don't know. Right. And so, if you're just relying on the other side to produce that, if they don't give those documents to the attorney's not going to be able to turn over the documents they don't have. So making sure that you can secure your own copies of these documents before you leave the house or, before all the passwords and usernames are changed.
Yeah. Boy, can you think what a daunting challenge that is alone? Think of every time you have a password on an account, every single account you have, everything that draws a bill or auto debits from your account, all that stuff has to be taken into account.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of the things I always do is tell clients to get a confidential email address because there has to be an expectation of privacy for attorney-client communications to occur.
Oh, I didn't think that.
So somebody else can hack into that. And if you use your work email, that's not confidential. Your employer, your employer has access to that. So I always tell people to provide me with a confidential email address. You need to know what your current expenses, what does it cost you to live each month, and what do you spend it on? And I know that's hard for a lot of people, but we can't determine issues relating to alimony without noting what the income is of the parties and what the expenses are. And we have documents to help do that, but it's good to know if you can make a laundry list of your expenses and all expenses that you pay for your children. When you're married, a lot of times, you whip out the Visa card and you don't really think about what you're spending. It's just on the bill,
So there's a lot to consider in terms of the finances because you may not even think of what you're spending as unique to you or your spouse. It's ours. And then when it comes time to make a division, you've got to decide where that division is going to be.
Right. And, and a lot of times, you're taking one household and then dividing it into two households. So you've kind of got to decide, okay, what are my expenses going to be? What can I comfortably afford? Because the standard of living that you have as a couple may not be, in fact, oftentimes isn't the same as you maintain individually.
Yeah, that's great advice, Millie. I'm going to get into some more about the kids and how they work into this when we get back from the break. Millie Athanason, you can find her at AthanasonLaw.com. Great stuff for you on divorce preparation, things you might not consider prior to getting a divorce, things you need to consider prior to getting a divorce. Again, we're going to visit a little bit about how kids play into that when we come back from the break. And don't forget about our feel-good story. I got Denver police giving out advanced auto parts gift gift cards instead of tickets. Find out how you can get one of those. This is the Consumer Quarterback Show.
Hey, this is Grant Cardone, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show, hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes. Do not touch that dial. I'll come right through the radio and grab your throat.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
My friends, when choosing a listing agent to sell your home, their track record is critically important. Dennis Prager here for Brandon and Lindsay Rhymes, owners of Platinum MVP Team at Keller Williams Real Estate. They're consistently rated by the MLS in the top 1% of all Tampa Bay realtors, and that's a big deal. Brandon and Lindsay are always among the top realtors in the state. Call them today at 813-750-0550.
Find them at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
Selling commercial or residential property? Don't leave money on the table. List with the Platinum MVP Team at Keller Williams Realty. I'm Brandon Rhymes. Reach me at 813-670-7372 or platinummvpteam.com.
My name is James DeJerome, and I produce the Consumer Quarterback Show for Brandon Rhymes. The Consumer Quarterback Show is a team, a group of like-minded professionals who partner together to provide our audience sound advice, knowledge, and information to make them wiser consumers. We work with all types of business owners and aggressively promote our local economy. We're currently conducting interviews for our expert contributors. If you own a business or know someone who would benefit from the exposure our show provides, please contact us at 813-750-0550 or online at consumerqb.com.
You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
That's right. ConsumerQB.com is a great resource for you out there in the Bay. Check it out. You can find all our expert contributors, some of our great sponsors, just like Golf Cart Depot, the sponsor for this segment. Golf Cart Depot, man, everybody has a golf cart. You see these kids with their skateboards towing each other around the neighborhood. Everyone's walking their dogs, checking everything out. Everyone's got a golf cart, and Golf Cart Depot is the place to go. They have all kinds of makes and models. They offer new and pre-owned. Financing's available. They'll even come do mobile repair for you. Check out any of their Bay Area locations. Discovery Golf Cart, they do such a great job. And, of course, as I mentioned, Brandon is the owner of the Platinum MVP Team. He's got real estate opportunities, both commercial and residential, even in this time of scarcity. Johnny's going to put a few up on the board, and we can see what we got here. Here's one in Tampa on West Shore. A chance to build your own dream home. More than 8,000 square feet on a corner lot. Beach Park, South Tampa neighborhood. Grady Coleman Plant School District, close to downtown Tampa Hyde Park. West Shore Plaza within walking distance, 202 South West Shore Boulevard in Tampa. Great chance to build your own dream home. Get in touch with Brandon and the Platinum MVP Team. Here's another one in Tampa. 3 side-by-side lots. He's got an investment opportunity for you at 803 East Palm Ave, minutes from downtown. It's zoned for urban mixed use right now. It's built-in income with tenants already on the site. So 803 East Palm, another opportunity for you from the Platinum MVP Team and Brandon. All right, so we were visiting with Millie Athanason before the break. Millie was telling us about things that you need to consider when getting a divorce. And, of course, it's all about the future, because you're going to go through divorce, but you're also going to be parents and have to get along with each other for the rest of your life anyway. So, Millie, tell us a little bit about how kids play into this. How does the court view a divorce when children are involved?
Well, when children are involved, the court places the children as their highest priority. In other words, that is the first issue that is always discussed and decided upon by the court is the minor children, because the court and society realizes that the only voice that these, children have are, if a guardian ad litem isn't appointed, is then for the court to make rulings that are in the best interest of the children. So they're not as interested in what the parents want or the parents' needs as they are interested in what the children's needs are. So one of the things I always recommend is, what are your children's schedules? What are they involved in? What activities do they participate in? How is their school environment? Do they need tutorial assistance? Are they doing great in school? Whatever it is, you want to maintain that continuity for the children. So, it would be great if the parents can decide on how best to effectuate that. However, oftentimes they cannot. I call that job security, because unfortunately, I see that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I see that all too often. And the court's main priority, as I said, are the children's needs. So I always ask the clients, well, what is your proposal for how we're going to meet these children's needs and what is best for them? And you've got to consider so many different factors. You got to consider their daily factors, how they're doing, where their friends are, where, what do they want to switch schools, or is it good for them to switch schools? I mean, there's just so many issues.
Switching schools can be pretty traumatic for a kid. So I imagine that's something the court would prefer not happen.
Oh, absolutely. If you can avoid it. I mean, obviously there are circumstances when that cannot be avoided, because when a parent moves, if they can't get special accommodation from the district, then you're going to be assigned to whatever school your parent's house is at.
Right.
So we that's one of the things we determine a lot is, if one parent is going to stay in the same school zone, that we utilize that parent's address for maintaining the child's schooling there. Because we want to keep them in the same school if they're doing well, if at all possible. So, those are definitely things that the kids, that the court considers. The children, sometimes they need counseling to get through this because they're having a rough time adjusting, not having both parents. So that needs to be considered as well.
Yeah, that's certainly the priority should be the kids, and you hope that's the case with the parents. Sometimes I'm sure, though, that they're fighting with each other so fiercely that they don't notice that the kids are at risk or not doing well.
Oh, yeah, and then what they do is they compound that, because then they put the children in the middle. Well, if your father wasn't such a blah, 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 or tell your mother that I said,
Yeah, that's not the right approach.
No, but unfortunately it happens all the time because people are speaking with emotions and anger, and they're not really thinking about, okay, I need to take the high road here, and I need to make sure that my child is able to have a relationship with both of his or her parents.
Right. Hey, Millie, in the last 2 minutes or so, I want you to contrast that with the couple that really has a great relationship and says to the judge, we're going to work together as best we can for the kids, and how they can save themselves some time and money in the court system by cooperation.
Absolutely. There's a process called collaborative law practice where if both parties are willing to work together, they can use the assistance of their lawyers towards drafting an agreement. So they may use a mediator or some other professionals to help them get there, whether it be a financial planner or a psychologist or counselor or what have you. And courts love to see when people can work together. And I always tell people, if you are playing a role in making your own divorce work, then you're going to have a happier time with the result, as opposed to a court imposing them on you.
Because it's possible that you could just go to war with each other and spend tons of money and not get anywhere and still end up, in a disagreement.
Yes, you can. You can, and I hope that doesn't happen, and we strive for that not to ever happen. But definitely, if you can work together, I mean, your kids are usually happier. You're going to wind up with more money because you're not paying divorce attorneys.
Right. It can be a little pricey, I bet.
It can definitely be pricey. Obviously, we get paid by the hour, so the more arguing the parties want to do, the meter is running.
That's right.
And, even though I tell people that, they still do it anyway. So I'm not going to, it just is what it is.
All right. Millie Athanason, AthanasonLaw.com. Millie, what's the best way for folks? Where are you located and how can they get to you?
So I have 2 locations now. The main office is in Newport Richey, and I have a second office in Spring Hill. My number is 727-376-9100 or 1-833-ASK Millie, MILLY.
That's a good one. Millie Athanason, the law offices of Millicent Athanason, AthanasonLaw.com. Thanks so much. She's our legal expert here on the show with some great divorce attorney selection and divorce information for you out there if you're having to go through that kind of thing. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, Brandon Faust is in the house. He's going to tell us all things mold, in addition to our feel-good story about the Denver police. They're giving out advanced auto parts gift cards instead of tickets. Find out how you can get one of those. And don't forget about our website, consumerqb.com, and of course YouTube. I'm pushing this hard because I want you guys to check out all the videos on our YouTube channel. YouTube, Consumer Quarterback Show. We've got so many videos online posted. You're going to meet our expert contributors and get a feel for the show. Don't go anywhere. The Consumer Quarterback Show rolls on.
This is Chris Voss, former FBI lead hostage negotiator and owner of the Black Swan Group, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
Name that came in
Thanks,
last
Millie.
time, the owner.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. You.
Alrighty, everyone stand by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
That's right. Give Brandon a call. You can find out how to get in touch with all our expert contributors. You can also get in touch with some of the real estate properties that you've seen on the show, commercial and residential opportunities available. And of course, our sponsors are also on the site. Replenish IV Solutions is their sponsor for this particular segment. Really cool business idea. Everybody's concerned about their immune system nowadays. And Replenish IV Solutions has a way to keep you hydrated and your immune system at top working order by injecting minerals and vitamins right into your bloodstream. So you can go see them at one of their locations, or they'll come directly to your place of business or your home. So Steve and Lisa Gunnan do a great job at Replenish IV Solutions, longtime friends of the show. Check them out online. They got lots of 5-star reviews. And of course, we got a few properties for you to look at because Brandon owns the Platinum MVP team. He's a Keller Williams agent, and Johnny's going to put a few up on the screen for us to look at. So whether you're looking for commercial opportunities or residential opportunities, Brandon still has one for you. 1200 Gulf Boulevard. This is a gorgeous beachfront penthouse right here, nearly 4,000 square feet. 3-bedroom suites, an office, a den, 2 Gulfside balconies, 1,100 feet of terrace with gazebo, garage and parking spaces. Really beautiful. 1200 Gulf Boulevard. Man, that is quite a property. If you're looking to get into the Clearwater area, call Brandon. Here's Largo. So if you've got over 1 acre of land in Pinellas County, right in Largo, 11724 132nd Ave. Income opportunity property is currently rented. You've got about 1,200 square feet, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and another 730 square foot property ready to go. Perfect for builders and developers, entrepreneurs, minutes from Clearwater Beach. If you're looking to get into Largo, Brandon has over 1 acre of land in Pinellas County. Get in touch with him and the Platinum MVP team. All right, in our studios, right here in our Salem Media Group studios, Brandon Faust, Mold Zero. He owns Mold Zero. He's got more stories about mold. Mold is out there. You don't know it because you don't see it a lot of times with the naked eye, and it's behind a wall. It's somewhere you don't consider, and next thing you know, you're not feeling great, and you don't know what it is. And it's mold can be tricky. So Brandon comes in all the time and shares some great stories with us. And of course, you got to have a solution and a lot of things. We had Rusty on. So we got to meet Rusty last time he was on the show.
He's my partner. Yeah, Rusty's a great guy.
Great job on the show, and really interesting story. He had his own personal experience and kind of got him motivated into this line of work. I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. That was really what got the ball started for us was his wife, Carol, having her own physical issues. That they were really just trying to figure out where it was coming from. Yeah.
I can imagine you got to be a private eye here. They start to eliminate things. Is it the diet? He said they went to all kinds of specialists. They did everything. The number of stories that I've heard that are very similar, if not identical, it's pretty mind-blowing. The amount of money that gets spent trying to figure out what's actually going on. They're thinking it might be diet. They might think it's Lyme disease. It's this. It's that. They can't figure it out. Right. And then it ends up they have mold in their home. So. And it's not as simple as just looking at the wall and seeing a patch of mold, is it, Brandon? No, it's interesting. I actually was I was at a home yesterday with a roofer, and they had an unfortunate situation where the roof wasn't necessarily put on correctly, right? And the next storm came in, and the water was just coming down, right? And we had been actually doing a job in the home where you could actually see the visible mold behind the walls and on the 2x4s on the studs, etc. You could see it there. But when the water came down, they moved the containment that we had set up, and they also, the containment was not put up well because you really have to make sure that it's sealed correctly. Right. And then they put fans around the room, and
I said, look, the way that you guys ended up handling this, right, you cross-contaminated the entire house. He's like, what are you talking about? All you can see is the mold right there. What do you mean you've cross-contaminated? I'm like, it's everywhere.
It's airborne.
It's airborne. The spores are microscopic. Right. You can fit 10 mold spores on the tip of a hair, and the gas that it releases is even smaller.
Right.
So, you don't necessarily know that it's there or that it's off-gassing. And if you see it colonize, I mean, you're way past the point you want to be.
So I imagine it's in the air before it's on the wall. Before you see a big spot on the wall, it's already in the air.
Completely. And that's part of the thing that most people don't realize. Another story, I was with a lady this morning. She's got a condo, and she brings it to the attention, hey, listen, our storage units, they have mold in them. She's talking to the property management company at the condo association, and they're basically saying, what are you talking about? That's not mold. There's no issue. But as soon as you walk in, it's extremely musty. It's like Mike Tyson punching you in the face, right? It's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
That's not mold. So the other thing is the only person that can really legally say, hey, this is mold is the lab per the Florida laws. Okay. So you get an inspector in there. They can't really say it's mold. I can't say it's mold. The only person that can really say it's mold is a lab. You got to test it.
Some of these old-time Florida people have seen mold for years. I mean, it's just part of what they're used to seeing it all around. It doesn't ring a bell or doesn't raise alarms for them.
Absolutely.
Then someone has that physical response. All of a sudden, they're respiratory distress. Their eyes are, what is
watering,
this?
Yeah, we see it all the time with the snowbirds. They come back, and their humidity was high. They shut down their blinds because in case there's a hurricane coming or whatever. They walk in, they turn on the switch, and they have like a green-white fuzz of film across everything. And they call in a cleaner.
Right, because they think it's natural, it's normal.
Oh, it's no big deal, right? And then they wonder why they're sick for the next 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it may be. And in some cases, you invite the spores actually into your body. And what does mold need to grow? Water, nutrients, and oxygen.
We'll find that in you.
You breathe in those spores, and before you know it, you have a big problem.
First of all, this thing has been eye-opening for me from the start when you came on board and started doing the show with us. But also the idea that mold is a living thing and it's going to respond to my actions. This really set me back a little bit. It took me for a loop because I thought, hey, I see mold on my wall. I'm going to get some Clorox and a sponge. I'm going to go right over to that. I'm going to clean it right up and be done with it. The mold actually it senses my attack and immediately takes defensive measures.
100%. And obviously you got to think with it within reason, right? Let's say you have some mildew in the shower. It's probably mold, honestly. Right. That's like mildew is almost a euphemism for mold.
Sure.
But you go clean that off. It's not a big deal. But what you're not thinking is that while you're scrubbing it, right, or wiping it down, you're actually spreading the spores.
Right.
And now it's getting into the grout. And then you wonder why it came back, and it came back with a vengeance.
I just thought it's alive. The fact that it's alive made me second thoughts. And then it has a natural instinct for survival, like everything
else. What happens when you attack a dog? What happens when you attack a porcupine? They're going to take an action to defend itself.
Right.
The main thing is that when you get to larger levels, then you really don't want to mess around with it. But I would ask the question, if you're seeing it in your bathroom, if you're seeing it on your vents, don't go and just go, oh, I have a little bit of mold there. No, that's the last place that it's manifesting. There's a deeper cause. It usually is in your ducts. It's usually in your air handler, right? And that you're seeing it grow in places where it's wet, where basically the spore will land. It creates a biofilm. There's water, and then you get dust, nutrients, skin cells, whatever, and then it will actually start growing. So the smaller stuff, not such a big deal in terms of kind of wiping it away, but you got to dig deeper, and that's where you put your detective hat on, and you find out you have a massive nest in your ducts, or you have a massive nest at the bottom of your air handler where it's constantly wet and condensating.
Well, you've shared some stories over the years where it's a very, very tiny penetration, somewhere in the wall, somewhere in the ceiling, somewhere in the roof, where just a tiny bit of moisture has managed to find its way in there, and just left untreated over time, you're going to get this process because of the heat and the water in our area. There's just no way around it.
Absolutely. I mean, I had it in my own house where we had a leak, and the only time it would leak is it when we were like washing the dishes or using the sink, but there was a crack in the pipe, and it was enough moisture, right? The mold started, and every time it got more water, it would grow, right? It would germinate. So before I know it, we're wondering why we're all sick and why we all have colds and we all have, mucus and, all these things, runny nose, headaches, and we're wondering what's going on. And I look and I see just a little bit behind the cabinets, right? I see, oh man, maybe there's something going on. What actually turned us on to it is my wife moved a mat, and there was some mold underneath the mat. So I was like, oh, the only reason there's mold beneath that mat is because it's wet. So I checked it with my moisture meter. Sure enough, it was wet. Huh. So then I looked deeper, and then there was a different type of mold actually behind the cabinet. So then when we pulled the cabinet out, sure enough, we had black mold all behind the wall. Right.
Now, tell me about black. I don't. It's supposed to be the danger. The worst one. Is that right?
Well, I should probably use the term Stachybotrys is what we had behind the wall. So that's a toxic mold. Okay. So certain molds are more toxic than others. In actual fact, Stachybotrys, the gas that comes from that particular mold, it has actually been grown by armies, by militaries, and then the gas harvested and taken and then used as chemical warfare.
Would you be able to smell that in a home?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, no. In my case, absolutely not.
Wow.
We could not smell it, right? I even did air samples, and it was clean because it's releasing a gas. The air samples don't pick up the gas. They pick up the spores. And black mold in particular has a heavy spore, so it doesn't necessarily float around, but the gas does. And that was what was making us sick in the house.
Invisible, wouldn't even know it's there behind a wall. Really, it's just something you better have a pro come out take a peek, because you can't eyeball it yourself and say, I'll take care of it.
No, it's really more than anything, it's the people test, right? It's like, are you experiencing headaches, joint aches, respiratory issues, rashes, congestion that is unexplainable? Some people have literally thought they had, COVID.
Right, it's pollen, it's this or that. You come up with a reason for it.
They think it's allergies, right? No, there's something going on behind your walls. There's something going on in your ducts. There's something that is happening that you're not aware of.
Yeah.
If you're seeing it with the naked eye, right, especially if it's like colonized, it usually is way past the point that you want it to be. And different molds have different colors, different textures. And, I've gotten pretty good at being able to tell what type of mold it is just by eyeballing it. But I can't say that's what it is officially, right? Because the only person that can do that is the lab. But, when I first ran across Chaetomium, which is another toxic mold, I literally thought it was mud specks. And sure enough, it was actually a toxic mold. And we see that behind the baseboards all the time.
I got to believe Florida is one of the, if I was a mold and I'm looking to go somewhere, Florida's got to be host to as many kinds as there are anywhere because of our humidity and our climate.
That's the way it is. I mean, where there's water, there's life. And, it was funny, the lady that I was talking to about her storage unit, the person that ran the property was like, there's no mold. There's never been a leak there. There's never been some sort of issue like that. Mold needs water to grow. You're right. Absolutely. You're on point. But in Florida, you have enough water in the air for mold to grow. Because there's dry molds and there's wet molds. The dry molds will actually start growing at 61% humidity. So if you're past 61% humidity, and it's stable.
We're past it just about every day of the year down here.
I mean, it's like 74 to 79% on average. So you only really have 2 or 3 months out of the year where we're in the 40, 45% range, right? And if you have it over 61% and it's not climatized, you're not getting that airflow, there's not fans, there's not a dehumidifier, etc., you're going to wind up with a mold bloom. And you don't want to bring that stuff back into your home, because then before you know it, it's being sucked into your return, it gets into your HVAC, it gets into your coils, and then you have a much bigger problem.
Well, we're going to talk a lot more about this with Brandon and some of the things he's done, some of the jobs he's worked on, the different techniques he uses to get mold away from you and to detect it so that you can really understand what's going on. Because, again, it's silent and invisible. Most of us had no idea it's there. So a really critical topic that we're going to cover when we come back from this break. Also, don't go anywhere. Feel-good story. Brandon makes me put one in every single show. Denver PD is giving out gift cards instead of tickets. We're going to tell you how you can get one of those. Don't forget that all our partners, Brandon included, can be found at consumerqb.com. And go to our YouTube channel. Check them out. You can get to see everybody and check out their videos at YouTube Consumer QB. And the Consumer Quarterback Show rolls on.
This is Warwick Dunn, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is Diane Vance with Fairway Independent Mortgage, a member of the Consumer Quarterback Show. Please give me a call for any of your mortgage needs. We do all sorts of loans. If you would like information on a mortgage, you can text me or call me at 727-647-8199. I will take care of all your mortgage needs. Go to my website at dianevance.com.
Ian Beckles here with my man, Brandon Rhymes, a.k.a. the real estate quarterback. Brandon, what's happening with the market?
Thanks, Ian. We are in a low inventory market, so any of our listeners are homeowners and would like a free comparable market analysis or a 2.5% listing, we will honor this for the first 3 listeners who call or text in 813-773-1253. Free CMA and a 2.5% real estate listing at 813-773-1253. Check out consumerqb.com. Selling commercial or residential property? Don't leave money on the table. List with the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. I'm Brandon Rhymes. Reach me at 813-670-7372 or platinummvpteam.com.
You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
That's right, consumerqb.com, a great resource for you. And of course, I keep mentioning the YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search the Consumer Quarterback Show. We want you to get in touch with all of our partners. They do such a great job. In addition to our sponsors, Brothers Easy Moving is the sponsor for this segment. This is the official moving company of the Consumer Quarterback Show. These guys moved Brandon himself into his house and did such a great job that he said, you guys are the official moving sponsor, whether it's local or long distance. Check them out online, Brothers Easy Moving. They do a great job. I teased this feel-good story before. I thought this was a great thing. Denver police giving out Advance Auto Parts gift cards instead of tickets. So the Denver Police Department and the Advance Auto Parts store up there have joined forces to serve the community and help keep motorists safe in the Mile High City. Police officers will now be handing out gift cards to the automotive parts provider instead of writing up tickets. How's the program going to work? Now, when they pull over a motorist for, say, a bad headlight or defective taillight, they'll have the option to give that person a $25 gift card to help the motorist get it fixed. And so the Advance Auto Parts is thrown into this. They've donated $125 gift cards to the Denver PD in an attempt to launch this new vehicle safety program. He says, we are very much looking forward to this. The Denver police officer chief Paul Pezon said, Advance Auto Parts donation not only helps us get greater compliance with the motoring public, but it also helps us build and strengthen relationships with the community. So really cool outreach there by the Denver police. Maybe you'd get lucky and get a gift card instead of a ticket for your taillight being out. Before the break, we were talking with Brandon Faust, and we talked a bunch about mold and, of course, all the different things he's seen and done. I want to talk about some of the cures, some of the jobs you've done, some of the things you've done. That church job. You brought in video,
Absolutely.
pictures. Man, that was giant. Talk a little bit about how they found it. And you can imagine a church, all these people are coming from other locations into this atmosphere. They're getting sick. You know what I mean? This is a terrible thing going on because the church feels responsible for making these guys sick.
Absolutely. And the pastor was getting sick all the time. He had headaches. It was lasting for quite a while. And it had been happening for a long time. They didn't know they had a mold issue until they had shut down the church because of the shutdowns from COVID-19. And then when they came back in, they saw the green-white fuzz on all the pews, on the Bibles, on pretty much everything. Their sound systems, it was all over the entire sanctuary.
Tell me about the structure. Is it an older building, or how did you think that was compromised?
Not necessarily. It was because of the humidity levels, right? It was probably built in the 1980s, something like that, maybe 1970s. When you had the AC going on, they probably had to try to keep it cool to keep that mustiness down, but they may not have realized that when you keep it too cool, you can create condensation, and then you wind up creating a bigger nest in places that you don't see until it's too late.
You put a big congregation of people in there, they generate heat, and you got kind of a thing going on with the AC and the moisture in the air.
But then once they walked in after a month of shutdowns, and then there was no denying it at that point in time because it was a green-white film everywhere.
Visually.
Everywhere.
I got you.
Right. So it was definitely one of those things that it was undoubted a situation. Now, what some people may have advised is we're going to just rip out the entire structure. But because Mold Zero does have a proprietary fogging system, and the volume and the density of the fog that we create, we were able to handle it without actually doing a big tear-out job for that church, and it had a great result.
Even in a big space like that, you guys were able to use the fog?
Oh, 100%, absolutely. We just brought in enough foggers that we created the volume fast enough that it was able to then linger for 30 to 40 minutes. It was then killing the airborne spores. And we saw an immediate spike in the spore load.
So the defense mechanism that we talked about earlier.
100%. So, when we took the initial sample, it was 6,000 spores per cubic meter. Then 3 minutes into the fog, it went up to about 980,000 spores per cubic meter.
So that's mold saying, hey, we were under attack, and they start to go airborne.
Wants to perpetuate itself. It releases its seeds. That's what a spore is. It's a seed, right? And also the gas. And that's why all of my guys, when we did that job, were in full personnel protective equipment, full face mask, gloves, booties. It was like fully taped up so that they could do it safely. And then we did the HEPA vacuuming, the wipe down. We did air scrubbing afterwards, which is where you put in big, massive HEPA filters. And then we were able to clean that air, and then we fogged it one more time. And then we actually got it to under 400 per cubic meter on those spores.
Wow, really cool. So the church was able to open back up and get the congregation back. I wonder, were there any steps, probably now that you have a routine plan where you guys come by every 6 months or one time a year to take a peek?
That's actually something that we're underway on, is developing a maintenance program, because we really see that it is just part of life here in Tampa. There's some of these things that you're just not going to be able to get away from. It's similar to like having a pool guy, right? He comes out once a week, and probably once or twice a year he's going to have to come and do like a shock on your pool, right? Because there's algae, and it's just that time of year. It's raining, the pollen in the air, etc. Before you know it, you wind up with a mold, like an algae bloom. It's very similar. There's probably times like that where we really should just come in and fog the whole house, fog the ducts, because what can occur is, even when you do a duct cleaning, what you're doing is you're agitating what's inside the ducts. Well, what about what's been blowing around your house for the last, month, 6 months, last year, etc.? I actually have a clip from a guy who was expressing that exact thing, because he didn't want to just do the duct cleaning. Okay. He wanted to actually get the whole home addressed, right?
Yeah, let's give it a try, see what he says. This is a testimonial from one of Brandon's customers.
Hey, Brandon, just want to let you know some good news. I totally see why your treatment is superior to all the other treatments. Coming back, when I opened the door, I could barely breathe as I came in. Came in at about 3:35, so like 25 minutes early, because there was so much hydrogen peroxide and vinegar in the air. Nothing's going to make it out of that alive, so that's fantastic. And we slept like babies yesterday, breathing in the air conditioning directly under it. It's completely clean. Thank you so much. And you have an amazing product. I get it. So fantastic work. Devin was great. And it's lovely.
Now he's talking about the dry fog.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's talking about.
Now you say proprietary. Understand what he means by that. No one else is doing that.
Yeah, we're a licensee of a company out in Utah. We were looking for, as Rusty told you, a way to salvage his home without doing a full demo of the home, right? Because he had a lot of raw wood in his home. So they needed a system which was going to basically treat the airborne spores, surface mold, etc. So they hooked up with Pure Maintenance out of Utah, and they came in, fogged their home, and Rusty saw, wow, this really should be brought to the world, right? So he said, look, let me be a licensee. So when that occurred, there was an opportunity in Tampa. He had some friends out in Tampa, and they were interested in getting their homes treated. And before you knew it, he had a list of people. Fortunately for me, he asked me to come on board, and that's sort of my background, is more sales, marketing, increasing the size and growth of a company. So I came on board, and basically in the last 4.5 years from once I came on board, we had pretty much 30x the size of the company.
Yeah, could you imagine having to tear apart your house or just send a fog? I mean, you could see the huge advantage to this technology when you're talking about not just tearing out to get to the mold, but then you got to build back. You got to have everything. It's a huge deal.
It's a huge headache, and in some cases, it honestly has to be done. Right. But if you don't have to do it, then great. Let's not do it.
Absolutely.
And I had, another thing that happened with me is it was like right out the gate. I had done, all my training certification for mold. And my son was having an issue at a month old where he wasn't able to breathe. So my training kicked in. So rather than taking him to a bunch of doctors, because he woke up 3 days in a row not able to breathe, I then started looking for the environmental toxicities, the triggers in the environment. Sure enough, I moved a shelving system. My mom had come to visit. There was a pinhole leak. It was leaking behind the wall into the laminate flooring, climbing up the shelving system, and that was the same room where the AC was pulling air and then distributing it all throughout the house. And I fogged my house. The next day, my son slept an hour longer, with no difficulty breathing. It was black and white. So that was my first aha moment.
You can see how this thing it takes a professional, because you and I just don't have the eyes and ears to notice when it's getting bad, and before you know it, your health is compromised. Brandon, about 30 seconds left. I want to give everybody out there an opportunity to find out how to get in touch with you and what they can do.
Absolutely. Well, moldzero.com, that's really easy. You know, anybody can actually write in through moldzero.com. Our phone number is 727-900. 9202, I believe is what it is. Maybe it's 7202. Either way, they can also call 727-NO-WATER. That's really easy. If they want to get a hold of us, 727-NO-WATER. That's how you prevent mold, is you make sure you don't have water in your home.
727-NO-WATER. Brandon Faust, Mold Zero, does a great job coming on. Not just going to tear your house apart. He's got technology to try to save as much of it as you can, because he realizes this is an important issue, and it's a health issue. We're really talking about a health issue for your family, and you want to take care of them. Thanks so much for coming in, Brandon, sharing that with us. I want to thank all you folks for listening to Consumer Quarterback Show. I want to thank Brandon Rhymes for giving me the opportunity to host when he's away. Make sure you go to YouTube. Please check out our videos online. There's some good stuff up there, and it's all about you, the consumer. This is the Consumer Quarterback Show.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for The Consumer Quarterback Show.